Hi all, so welcome to this hips and shoulders for mindful movement. I've got a seating block here which I'm going to use, but you can use books, or if you've got one of the blocks like the blue one here, feel free to use the blue one. I'm also going to be using a yoga strap. So the things that can replace a yoga strap are either dressing gown belts or just a normal belt, but something that hasn't got any give in it. It needs to be quite firm. So I'm going to come to a seated position today to start off this class. So if you need to elevate your hips, sit on a cushion or a book or something like that. You don't have to have your legs crossed if you don't wish. If you want to go on the knees, feel free to do so, or bring the legs out in front if you're not comfortable. Bring your hands onto the top of your thighs. Roll the shoulders up towards the ears and then release them back down towards the hips. Take a close of the eyes, take a moment to scan the body at the beginning of practice just to check in with how your own personal body feels today. If it's morning, it may be feeling quite tight. If it's lunchtime, maybe you've got a bit more pliability through that body. If it's evening, maybe you're a little fatigued from the day. So just make sure you practice at a good time for yourself. I personally like my practice in the morning, but not everybody likes to get up early. Not everybody likes that sensation of tightness. You have to do what feels best for you and fits in with your own personal plans for the day. When you've taken that scan of the body, start to bring the attention to the breath and start to take some long, deep breaths, trying to send them low into the belly. On the inhale, blowing the belly up like a balloon, expanding through the rib cage, lifting up through the chest. On your out breath, just feel everything soften back down, everything go back into a slight relaxed state. So the inhale creates lightness and lift, some extension. And the out breath creates some grounding and stability and maybe a little softness through those muscles. Keep using that breath, maybe using the nose if you can, or in and out through the nose and mouth. Whatever works for you, but the true yogic breath is that slight restriction at the back of the throat. Breathe in and out through the nose. So we're going to be working with the hips, with the shoulders, which we do in every single yoga practice, but we're just being a little more mindful of them today. Open the eyes, take another roll of the shoulders again, up towards the ears. This time keep them elevated there, squeezing them up as much as you can towards those ears. And then on your next out breath, just let them relax back and down towards the hips. And again, we'll squeeze those shoulders up towards the ears. We hold them there just for a breath. And then on your out breath, let them relax back down towards the hips. Bring the arms out in front of you, taking your left elbow under your right, taking a bend into the elbows, finding the back of the hands or the palms. Reach up with the elbows, stay tall through the spine, up through the crown, but grounded through the sit bones. And from this position, start to turn around to your left side, keeping that pelvis facing neutral to the front edge of your mat, and your shoulders turning to the left side of the mat. Hold it there for a breath. And then take it back through center. And then take that twist to the other side. So you feel that rotation coming from the waist, shoulders turn now. So we're turning to face that right side of the mat. I am mirror imaging you just to keep it a little more simple. Relax those shoulders, lift those elbows, then come back to the center. And when you come back to center, release the hands, give the arms and the shoulders a bit of a shake. And then bringing those hands back out again in front of you. This time your left elbow comes over your right, and we maybe find the back of the palms or the palms, lifting up through those elbows, relaxing through the shoulders. This time take a turn to the right side and try and twist again through that waist, taking it as much as you can around to that right side of the room. Pelvis stays nice and neutral, back stays tall, growing up through the crown, grounded through the sit bones. And then bring yourself back through centre. Turn and face the other side of the room, so turning to the left. Squeeze the oblique muscles on the left side of the body. Sit bones grounded, crown lifted, spine nice and tall, twist from the waist. Come back to the centre. Once you get into the centre, release the arms, give those hands a shake, a roll of the shoulders. And then bringing the hands down, tenting the fingers either side of the hips, raise up your right hand, let the shoulder of that right side relax, but the arm lengthen, and then take that body over to the left side of the mat, feeling that lateral flexion through that waist, the relaxation through that shoulder, but that length through the arm. Come back to centre and bring that right hand back down to the floor. Reach up this time with your left hand, but then relax the shoulder back to the hip and then take it over towards that right side of the mat. Lateral flexion through that waist, feeling that stretch down that left side of the body. Sit bones are still seated onto that block or onto the mat, wherever you are. That relaxed shoulder on that left side, but that long left arm. Come back to the centre, bringing that hand back down. Take the hands behind you, take an interlace of the fingers, push the hands down towards the bum to the block or the floor and squeeze the shoulder blades together. Once the shoulder blades are squeezed together, try and draw the ribs back so the lower belly lifts and the tailbone tucks. Maybe lift those hands slightly away from the lower bum, so they're being brought away from the bum and lifting up into the air. Then if you wish to lean forward over those legs, so we get a little flexion through those hips as the arms lift away from the back, but only if the shoulders allow. Holding it here for one more breath. And then bring those bodies back up, shoulders over the hips. Release the hands, give those arms and wrists a bit of a shake. And then removing any blocks from under the bum. Widening the legs as wide as the mat, just placing the block over to the side. Toes back towards the shins, knees and toes facing up to the ceiling. Remove flesh from under the sit bones. And we're going to bring our hands into the centre and start to walk those hands forward. Trying to keep that back nice and tall, nice and straight. Try not to roll through the shoulders. Use the breath. The inhale creates some elongation and the out breath creates a little more fold, that pivot from the hips. You don't have to come too far. The aim is to keep pushing those knees into the mat to activate these legs. The toes being drawn back to the shins to get a stretch through the Achilles and calves. And the chest is pushing forward and we're taking that fold and pivot from the hips. The shoulders are being drawn back into the back pockets. The chest is wide, collarbones have some space. And then walk the hands over towards your right foot. Turn the shoulders towards the right foot. Keep that left sit bone pushing into the mat. And then start to fold over that left leg. Again, keeping that nice tall spine. Then open hips, the stretch into the groin on the inside of those thighs. Keep both sit bones grounded and the fold coming from those hips. Chest pointing towards those toes. Come back through centre. Take it over to the opposite leg now, so over to your left leg. Shoulders face the foot, and as you breathe out, we fold over that leg. So thinking now about that right sit bone, really encouraging it back towards the floor so both sit bones are grounded and we pivot from those hips to fold over those legs. Use that breath again to maybe find a little more range of movement. Long, easy breaths in, complete breaths out. Then bringing yourself back to the centre and then just allow your body to fold in the centre. Maybe you come a little lower now that body's got used to this folding. Maybe you walk the hands a little further forward to fold over those legs a little more, bringing that chest in the direction of the floor. One more breath here. Then start to walk those hands back up towards the body. Bring the legs back into the centre. Take a bend into your right knee and just bring the sole of that right foot into that thigh. Take a bend into your left knee. Take a hold of that left foot with the right hand and take a hold of that left knee with the left hand and squeeze both the knee and the thigh in towards that chest. If you want to take it deeper, you can hook that right elbow around that left foot and hook the left elbow around that left knee. Sorry, the right elbow around that left knee, and then squeeze that leg in towards the body, still staying tall up through the spine, lifted through the crown, taking it into rock the baby. And then take a little rock of those hips from side to side. That knee going in and out. Keep squeezing that shin and calf in towards the chest. And then bring it to stillness, maybe squeeze it in a little more. And then release that foot back down. Bring out your right leg. Bring your left foot into the groin. Take a bend now into that right knee. Take a hold of the right foot with the left hand. Take a hold of the right knee with the right hand. Then you can either stay here and rock here, or you can bring that right foot into that left elbow and take a hold of that right knee with the right elbow. Left knee with the left elbow, and squeeze it in and rock from side to side. So I may have just got my lefts and rights a little bit wrong here, but you know the idea, you can see the screen. So just work with trying to find this posture all the time, mainly staying tall through that spine, rocking through those hips, loosening those hips off a little, and feeling those sit bones still seated. And then release that leg, send both legs out straight and just give those legs a little shake, legs a little pedal. So in a seated position with the legs out long, I'd like you to take a hold of your strap or your belt or whatever you're using. And I'd like you to bring the arms out wide so they are out to the side. Nice tall spines. We're going to take a little bit of mobility through the shoulders, but we're aiming to keep that back nice and tall and not flare through those ribs. So as you take a breath in, you lift the arms up and over the head, and we hold it in this full extension of the spine and a flexion of the shoulders, but a little outward abduction as well. Holding it in this position, keep putting the stretch into that band, keep squeezing the shoulder blades together, keep drawing the ribs back, keep lifting up through that crown. Hold it here just for another couple of breaths in that full lifted body, grounded sit bones, straight legs. Really hard to hold this seated pose for any length of time. But it helps strengthen all those muscles in the back that lean, that go up and down that spine. Those erector spinae muscles. We're helping those deltoid muscles in the shoulders. We're strengthening through the pelvis. One more breath here. And then release that strap back down to the knees. Place the strap down by the side of the mat, but able so you can grab hold of it. Bring the body to the floor. Bring the head to the mat. Take a bend into both knees. Take a bend more into your left knee to hook the strap over that left foot. Then take a hold of the left strap with the left hand. Bring your right hand out to the side into a T-shaped position. So that's your counterbalance. Your right leg is bent. And then just start to take that left leg out to the side, trying to keep both sit bones down on the mat. taking it out as wide as you can, using that right leg as a little counterbalance if that right hip starts to lift, pushing it back over to get both bum cheeks down on the floor. Feeling that stretch on the inside of the thigh on that left leg. And then with the strength of the inside of that leg, lift that left leg back up to the ceiling. And then take a hold of the strap with both hands and then try and encourage a little more hamstring stretch down the back of that left leg by drawing the toes over the eye gaze, maybe a little more back towards the back of the room. Hold it here just for one more breath. And then release that left foot back to the mat. Bring your right foot now into the strap. I'm just going to change direction so I have space for my leg. The left knee stays bent, the right knee stays bent until you start to straighten up. Holding on to the strap now with the right hand, the left hand out to the side, T-shaped position, left knee bent. Try and push that right heel away, right toes back to the shins. And then slowly take that right leg out to the side. Use that left knee as a little counterbalance to stop the hips rocking over. And then feel that stretch on the inside of that right thigh. Opening through that hip. Holding it here just for another couple of breaths. And very slowly, using the muscle strength on the inside of that right thigh to lift that leg back up towards the ceiling. Release that left hand to come to the strap and start to bring those toes beyond the eye gaze to get a hamstring stretch down the back of the right leg this time. Try and keep both of the hips grounded, the lower back pushed into the mat. And try and push that right heel away a little more and the right toes back a little more towards that shin. And then taking a bend into that right knee, placing the strap down by the side, bring both knees in towards the chest, squeeze those knees in as tight as you can take them without that lower spine lifting away from the floor. And then release those feet to the mat, bring the hands to the hips. Let both knees drop out to the side and bring the soles of the feet together. So now we're again stretching the inside of those thighs, externally rotating those hips. And then lift those arms up towards the ceiling and then slowly lower them to the mat without the arch coming into the lower back. So taking the hands down all the way to the floor as much as you can reach. Without that chest and ribs lifting, keep bringing the lower belly up, keep pushing the middle of the back into the floor. Try not to flare those ribs. So we're getting some more flexion through the shoulders, but gravity is helping that flexion rather than trying to use muscle strength. It helps release the muscles under those armpits, through those pectoral muscles. And then lifting those hands again back up towards the ceiling with control. Then bringing the hands to the hips, bringing the knees into the centre, hugging those knees in towards the chest. Bringing your left leg long, bringing your knee of the right to the outside towards that right armpit. Bring your right elbow to the inside of the right knee. Take a hold of the outside of that right foot. Left hand comes onto the hip, and then just straighten a little with the lower part of the leg, but still keeping the knee bent so that sole of the foot, the heel of the foot stacks over that right knee. Taking a half happy baby. Trying to compress that right hip flexor, stretching through the outside of the hip, stretching into that groin space. Drawing that knee as much as you can into that armpit. Holding just for another couple of breaths, keeping relaxed through the shoulders. And then taking that right leg back to meet the left. Bring that left knee in towards the chest. Then take it out towards the left armpit. Bring the left elbow to the inside of that left knee. Take a hold of the outside of that left foot. And then lift that left foot up to the ceiling as though you're pointing the sole of the foot upwards. Heel stacking over the knee. Knee being drawn into the armpit, right hand on the right hip just to stabilise the hips from rocking over. Keep drawing that knee in nice and tight, feeling that compression through that left hip. One more breath here. And then release that left leg back to meet the right. Take a bend now into your left knee with the left foot on the floor. Bring your right ankle onto the top of the right leg. Turn the knee out. Bring the knee into the chest. Thread hand of the right through the right leg. Hand of the left around the outside of the left thigh. Right elbow pushing into the right knee. Left knee being drawn into the chest. Then raise that left leg up to the ceiling to get a hamstring stretch and squeeze those legs in towards you as much as you can, pushing that right knee out. Shoulders plugged into the floor. Relax through the shoulders, length through the spine and the crown. Squeeze it in for one last breath. And then release that left foot back to the mat. Right foot to meet the left. Take it the other side. Left outside ankle onto the top of the right thigh. Bring the right foot away from the floor. Thread the left hand in between the left leg. Right hand around the outside of the right thigh. Left elbow pushing the left knee out. Hands drawing the right leg in. Once you've found as much range of movement as you can muster, let that right leg straighten, get into the hamstring. Draw the leg in maybe a little more if it allows. Shoulders relaxed. Push them down towards the hips. Create some space through the collarbones. One more breath here. Then release that right foot back to the floor, left foot to meet the right. Bring the arms to cactus arms so we have a little bit of stretch through the pectoral muscles. Heel toe the feet out to the edges of the mat. Then let the knees drop over to your right side. Take the gaze towards that left elbow and try and encourage the knees down as much as you can without the shoulders lifting away from the floor. Just use that breath. Relax into the pose. Try and let go of any muscles you're holding in those thighs. And then bringing those knees back to the centre, the gaze back up to the ceiling, keeping the feet mat width apart. Take the knees over to your left side, your gaze over to your right side, and feel the stretch through those hips on the right hip flexor. And then just relax the muscles. Just try not to hold anything. Let everything go. Those shoulders are pushing into the floor. The space through the chest. The space through that right hip. Then bring those knees back to the centre. Just let those knees drop internally for a few breaths. Maybe heel toe the feet out a little wider to internally rotate a little more. Maybe you feel that in the glutes. Maybe you feel that in the hamstrings. Then heel toe the feet back together. Bring the knees in towards the chest. Take a hold of the creases of the knees. Just rock up and down that spine a couple of times. Up to seated once, back down. Up to seated twice, back down. And then on the third time, coming up to seated, we're going to try and work with a little strength in these hip flexors. And we're going to try and feel like we're sitting up nice and tall and finding a good balance. So bring your weight into that space between the sit bones and the lower spine. Push the chest forward. When you've found that balancing point, just lift up one leg and then lift up the other. Maybe hold it here, holding onto the legs if that feels strong enough. Or we'll try and use a little more strength in those hip flexors. If you remove those hands away and bring them to the sides of the legs, still keeping a nice tall spine, still keeping those knees and feet lifted, holding it here just for a few more breaths. And then release the feet to the floor, bring the knees out to the side, take a hold of the feet, turn the palms up, turn the soles of the feet up. Use the elbows to push those knees out maybe a little further, leaning over the hips, gazing down to the toes in our butterfly seated position. Taking one more breath here. And then making your way onto your hands and knees, either hooking the feet under or swinging the legs around, making your way into a tabletop position. And we'll just do a few bits of circular movements with the hips. So bringing the hands a little further forward from underneath the shoulders, then bring the hips down so they're just hovering off the mat towards the heel of the hands. Take the knees so they're hip width apart, and then send the hips over to your left side, back towards the heels, over to your right side, back towards the heel of the hands. We'll do this 3 times, over to the left, back towards the heels, over to the right, back towards the heel of the hands. One more time to this direction, over to the left, back towards the heels, over to the right, back towards the heel of the hands. And take it in the opposite direction now, so over to the right side, back towards the heels, over to the left side, back towards the heel of the hands. 2 more this direction, over to the right, back towards the heels, over to the left, back to the heel of the hands. One more time, over to the right, back towards the heels, over to the left, back towards the heel of the hands. Then bring yourself a little further forward with the hands, stack your hips over your knees, and then just let the chest sink down towards the floor. Maybe the forehead comes to the mat. Maybe you feel that stretch through those intercostal muscles in between the ribs, that flexion through the shoulders. Just taking those shoulders to a place that gravity helps take them to. One more breath here. Then starting to walk those hands back towards the knees, bringing the seat to the feet. If you wish to use a block or a book or a cushion, just to place it under those heels if it's a little uncomfortable to bring those hips low. Then take a hold of your strap, widen your hands fairly far apart because we're going to move with the shoulder mobility now. So your breath in, we raise that strap up towards the ceiling, and your breath out, we bring that strap back down to the base of the body, to the lower part of the back. Your breath in brings that strap up and over, and as you breathe out, back to the thighs. Do 2 more of these. Raise those hands, getting into that shoulder mobility, taking the shoulders in all its planes of movement. And again, lifting up and down on your out breath. One more time. Breath in, raise those hands. Breath out, lower them to the back. Breath in, raise up with the hands. Breath out, lower back to the floor. Release that strap just by the sides of the mat. Release that block from underneath the bum. Come back into all 4 position. Knees under the hips, heel of the hands under the shoulders. Take a breath in, lift up the head, lift up the bum, squeeze the shoulders down into those back pockets and just hold it here in our cow position for a few breaths. Think about that expansion through the tummy, the arch through the back. Try not to take it all in the lower back if you can. Try and let that thoracic spine get involved by lifting and creating that space in the chest at the front of the body. Then as you breathe out, take it into that cat position. Feel everything pushing into that space between the shoulder blades. Hold it here for a few breaths. Notice the sensation through the back, the lifting up of the belly, the drawing that belly button back towards the spine. One more breath here. And then bring it back to a neutral tabletop. Stepping both feet back to a plank position. And then raising the hips to our down dog. Lifting as high as you can with those hips. Pushing those heels back. Maybe you're paddling if that's what feels better for your body. If that feels better on those hamstrings. Then widen the legs as wide as the mat or a little further. And then push that chest back. Expand that thoracic spine. Getting them shoulders into a little more flexion. Little micro bend in the elbows so we're not hyperextending into those joints. Tailbone lifts nice and high. Relax those shoulders. Relax those necks. Then from this position, come down onto the forearms into our wide leg dolphin pose. And just strengthen through those shoulders a little bit. The heels don't have to come to the floor, just an intention to get there. We'll hold it in dolphin just for a couple of breaths before we then bring ourselves down onto our bellies. So bringing the knees down, bring the feet into the centre, knees under the hips. Bring yourself down onto your belly. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body. Roll the shoulders back. Push the hips into the mat. Then lift up the legs. Lift up the head, chin, chest. Squeeze the shoulder blades a little more together. Maybe lift up those hands. Taking it into a back bend. Really squeezing the shoulders away from the ears. So we're trying to squeeze those rhomboid muscles in between the shoulder blades together a little more. One more breath here. Then release the feet, release the chest, release the chin. Take a bend into both knees. So choice can either to come up into a bow position from here without taking a hold of the hands. So you would lift the thighs, lift the chest, lift the chin, lift the hands. Or if you can reach through to those ankles, we will take it into our full bow. So if you've been able to grab the ankles, or you could use your strap to wrap around those ankles to use a little more length from the fingertips to the feet. Push then into the ankles, push into the hands, lift up the chest, let those shoulders come down away from the ears, thighs lift away, full bow pose. One more breath here. Then release those thighs. If you're holding the ankles, release the ankles. If you're not and you're in this position, let everything relax down to the mat. Bring the hands underneath the forehead and then turn onto your left cheek and bring your right knee out to the side, foot and knee stay on the floor. And we try and encourage and push that right hip into the mat. So we're squeezing that right bum cheek to really create that space on the inside of the groin on that right thigh. Then bring that right leg back to meet the left. Turn the cheek so we're on the right side. And then take a bend into your left knee, bringing that left knee up as high as you can, but then encouraging that that left hip in towards the mat. Push, 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 squeeze that left bum cheek to push it down a little further. Engage through those glutes. So when we do stretch and contraction, opposing muscles work with each other or against each other. So we're squeezing and contracting the glutes, but we're lengthening into that groin. Come back to the center, forehead back onto the hands. Bring those feet back so they're just slightly together, maybe not touching. And then push those hips into the mat. Raise the arms, the head up so that thoracic spine gets a little bit of extension. Relax those shoulders. Lift up again a little further. And then release that head back down to the mat. Bring the hands by the sides of the body. Tuck under the toes. Bring those chests back towards those thighs. Keeping those toes tucked. Just stay in this position for a few breaths. So you're feeling that flexion again through the shoulders. And then pushing into those hands, pushing into those feet, lifting up those hips, squeezing those heels back, taking ourselves into our down dog. Feet nice and wide apart, but not as wide as the mat this time, maybe just a little more than hip width. Step the feet in by one. Shorten that down dog a little. Put your weight into your left hand and tap the left knee with the right hand. And bring it back. Put your weight into your right hand. Tap the right knee with the left hand. And back. Same on the other side. Right hand taps the left knee. And the left hand taps the right knee. Putting a little more weight bearing each shoulder. Same again. Right hand touches the left knee. And the left hand touches the right knee. One more time on both sides. Right hand touches the left knee. And the left hand touches the right knee. And release back. Bring the knees to the floor. Bring the seat to the feet. Take a hold of your strap. Bring it in front of you again, widen the hands, and we'll take those shoulder mobility movements with the strap. Breathe in, raise the hands. Breathe out, drop those arms towards the back. All the time keeping those ribs from flaring. Breathe in, lift those arms. Breathe out, lower them back to the front. Two more, raise, lift on the inhale. Drop back to the back on the exhale. Lift, raise up and back. And again, one more time, lift and lower and lift and lower. Release that strap to the side. Come back into a plank position and then lift those hips. Squeeze those heels back. Coming back to our downward facing dog position with a nod and a shake of the head. Long, easy breaths in and long breaths out. So coming down onto your knees, stepping your right foot through in between the hands, taking a hold of the strap. Raise the shoulders over the hips. We're going to take that movement with the shoulders again. So widen the hands, keep the shoulders stacked over the hips, the bum of the left squeezing. Breath in, raise the hands. Breath out, lower it towards the back of the body. And again, raise the hands. Lower it back towards that right thigh. Two more, lift on the inhale. Relax back on the exhale. Lift, inhale. Back to the thigh, exhale. One more time, lift, inhale. Back, exhale. Lift, inhale. Back, exhale. Bring that right knee back. Step your left foot forward. This time we're going to bring the hand of the right up to the ceiling and then send it behind the back and bring the left hand behind the back of the body. And when you get to this position, I want you to try and draw the hands in towards each other, walking that left hand up the strap and the right hand to meet. Try not to flare the ribs, right elbow points up, left shoulder internally rotates as you take that left hand behind the back. Squeeze that right bum cheek to keep that bum tucked under, lower belly lift, ribs try to tether to those hips. One more breath here. And then release that strap. Take it to the other side. So this time your left hand lifts up to the ceiling. And then you let that left hand go down the back. Your right hand grabs a hold of the strap that's trailing. And try and walk that right hand up to meet the left. Left elbows pointing up to the ceiling. Right shoulders internally rotated to take that hand behind the back. All the time pushing those hips forward. Squeezing that right bum cheek. Holding it here for a breath. One more breath in this position. And then release the hands, release the strap down by the side of the mat. Bring the hands either side of that left foot, bring that left knee back to meet the right. Take a little rock of the hips from side to side. And then walk the hands a little further forward. Let the chest sink down towards the mat, gazing forward or bringing that forehead to the floor. Stretching through those armpits again, expanding that chest. Then make your way onto your belly. Bring those hips down. Bring your right arm out to the side, hand at shoulder height. And then roll over onto your right side. So hips stack, shoulders stack. And you've got that pectoral stretch on the inside of that right shoulder. Left leg goes behind the back, lifting that left knee, trying to get a little openness through that left hip. Just holding it in this position, getting a stretch into those pectoral muscles. Feeling that on the space just in front of that shoulder, into that chest. Use that left hand to try and maybe push a little further. Just check in with how the shoulder feels. One more breath here. Then roll back onto the belly. Reach that left hand out. This time, bring your right hand towards the chest. Roll onto your left side. Feel that stretching in the shoulder. Then take that right leg over the left, lifting that right knee up to the ceiling. Push into that right hand to try and anchor that twist a little more. One more breath here. And then release back to the belly. Straighten both legs back out. Bring the hands by the sides of the body, tuck the toes under. Bring the chest back towards the thighs. Let the chest sink towards the thighs and the forehead towards the mat, feeling the stretch down the arms. Then push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips, squeeze those heels back. Maybe take a paddle of the feet. Maybe some movement through those hips. Then bringing your right foot to the outside of the right hand. Maybe you drop the left knee first to bring that foot to the side. Once you've got the foot by the side of that right hand, tuck the back toes under and lift that back knee. Then just rock around in this lizard position, just moving through the hips, taking whatever movement feels good for you. It might be that you want to lift out of it a little, maybe rock from side to side a little. Just moving those hip sockets around in all different places. And then bringing that left knee to the floor and tucking the left toes. Bring your right hand onto your right knee and push that right knee out to the side. Coming onto the knife edge of that right foot. Really feeling that stretch in that hip flexor, in that groin. And then walk that right foot back into the middle. Walk the hands back towards the left knee. If you're happy to bring the seat down to the feet, maybe use a block just to support that right hip. Reach up with the arms and then fold over that right leg. Just bring the hands down to wherever they reach. That might be the foot, it might be the shin, the ankle. Use your breath to find the fold. Keep squeezing those toes back towards you. Try and keep the hips neutral. Using that block can quite often keep those hips in a good space. Getting into those hamstrings a little. And then start to walk the hands back towards that right foot. Maybe bring that block to the left side so it's handy for the next time. Bring your right knee back to meet the left. Step back to a plank, lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back into down dog. Ready to take the same on that left side. So bringing your left foot to the outside of the left hand. If you need to drop the right knee, drop it down. Once you've got that left foot to the outside of the left hand, tuck the back toes under and lift up that back knee. Squeeze that right heel back, sink those hips, and then just move around however you feel fit. Feeling that hip socket moving in different places. And then bringing it to stillness, sink the hips low, drop the back knee, uncurl the back toes. Take the left hand onto the left knee, push that knee out to the side, creating that space on the inner side of the thigh, through that left hip flexor. And then bring that left foot back into the center. Walk those hands back towards that right knee. Bring that seat to the feet. Maybe use that block again under that left hip just to support you. Raise the hands up to the ceiling. Then start to fold over that left leg. Just bringing those hands down to wherever they reach. Using the breath, elongation on your inhale, flexion on your exhale. Just making sure that everything feels okay. You're challenging it to change it, but you're not trying to challenge it to hurt yourself. Just being really careful with how you move, what things you do to your body, knowing your body and the places it's happy to go to. One more breath here. Then walking the hands back up, walking the hands back towards that left foot, just move the block out of the way. Step your left foot back to meet your right into plank. Lift the hips, widen the feet slightly. Then start to bring that tap of the hand back to the opposite knee. So right hand taps the left knee and bring it back. Left hand taps the right knee and bring it back. Two more on each side. Right hand, left knee. Left hand, right knee. Right hand, left knee. Left hand, right knee. Come back to the centre. Bring the knees down to the width of the mat. Bring the big toes together. Sit bones to the heels. Bring those foreheads down to the floor. And just take a few moments in child's pose. Great space just to stretch out that lower back. Compress those hips. And just generally get a feeling of relaxation. If those bums don't come to the heels, that's fine. Maybe put a block under or a cushion. Just find that comfortable space for you. Few more breaths here before we start to make our way onto our backs. Starting to cool it down, ready for relaxation. Coming onto your hands and knees, just swinging the legs around. Bringing the bums into the centre, the feet to the front, shoulders to the mat. Bring the knees into the chest, just give those knees a squeeze. And then make circles with the knees in one direction, really working into those hips, into that lower spine, massaging as you go. And then take those knees in the opposite direction. And squeeze those knees into the body. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Let those shoulders come down to the floor. Try not to hug them to the ears. And then release those feet to the mat. Either go into butterfly legs here, if you wish, or straighten the legs out long to the ends of the mat. Either bring the hands to the hips or the arms out to the sides of the body, letting those fingers gently curl, the jaw relax. Nice, long, easy breaths in through the nose, maybe out through the mouth or the nose, whatever works. Give yourself a few moments just to check back in with the body, noticing how those shoulders and hips feel. Noticing the difference from the beginning to the end of class. Really being aware of what the difference is on left and right, whether you hold more tension in one side or the other. Noticing whether one shoulder's held up high compared to the other. The more you get to know your own body, the more you can trust your alignment, the more you can work on getting your alignment right. If you wish to stay in relaxation a little longer, feel free to do so. If you wish to come out with me, start to wriggle those fingers and those toes. Maybe rotate those wrists, rotate those ankles. If you wish to take a full body stretch, stretching the arms up and over the head, stretching through the fingertips, stretching through the toe tips, and then bringing those hands back up and over the head, bringing the knees into the chest. Give those knees a hug, maybe have a rock of the body from side to side. And then when you're ready, either rolling onto your right side or rolling up and down the spine, up to seated once, back down, up to seated twice. Find a comfortable seat, either cross-legged or on the knees. Bring the hands onto the thighs. Taking a breath in, raise those hands up towards the ceiling, palms come together at the top. And on your out breath, bring the hands to the chest, soft gaze to the floor. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts, from my heart to yours. Namaste.